Welcome back, everyone. Sorry to keep you all waiting for so long, I apologize. But it's finally time to tackle the second episode, or more fittingly, the second half of the first episode of A New Frontier, Ties That Bind Part 2. As mentioned before, Telltale released the first two episodes of A New Frontier together, and much like Part 1, it's only a bit over an hour in length, and that's with me looking at everything, talking to everyone, and waiting until the last second to make my choice. Will it suffer from the same problems as its predecessor, or will it give us more of what we love from Telltale's The Walking Dead? Will it be a mess like the first part, or will it focus more on the characters and pacing? Let's find out. This is Ties That Bind, Part 2. Okay, so we get the normal text of choices, and we open right back up to the battle at the junkyard. What the hell?
Please, let me do the dishes. That's the least I can do. I'm crashing here. Crashers clean dishes.
Apparently we're starting off here. I guess that makes sense. As much sense as a deer water skiing, but it's fine. No big deal. So it appears that every episode is going to start off with a flashback involving Javi before it gets right back into where the previous episode left off. Because Telltale wants to show that they can outdo Christopher Nolan in telling their stories in random order. This particular flashback takes place shortly after Javi is ousted for gambling, and he's crashing at Kate and David's house. He talks about David's hypocrisy surrounding him, how he complains when he's never around, and then when he is, he completely ignores him.
It's complicated. But look, he loves you. You're his brother.
He's got an odd way of showing it.
I think the last episode established that pretty well. The conversation shifts to what he's going to do now that he's out of a job. Javi suggests he might travel around a bit, and I guess that would explain where he was back in the first episode, but this just creates another hole. It's implied Javi lost most, if not all, of his money because of his gambling, hence why he needs a place to crash and why he couldn't pay for his father's medical costs.
If I was still playing ball, I could have paid for it.
If he doesn't have enough money to afford a place to live, how does he have enough to travel around? Especially when he says he'll be lucky to get a job coaching t-ball. It's not like those guys get paid a lot. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's a volunteer position. As Kate's doing the dishes, she accidentally breaks David's glass and cuts herself. She notes how this will make David angry, and when Javi puts a towel over it to stop the bleeding, she puts his hand right back when he tries to move away. We get it, game. Kate's in an unhappy marriage, and David is a shitty husband. It doesn't make her actions here or throughout the game morally right. The fact is that she's still married to David, but as early as this, possibly before, she was showing affectionate feelings for his brother. We get all this talk from her, as well as David later, about how the marriage is bad, but I don't see any evidence that either of them tried to talk out the problems and fix what's wrong. And Kate just decides to latch onto Javi, sometimes right in front of David. Being in an unhappy marriage does not justify cheating on your husband. Two wrongs do not make a right. It's almost as if she's trying to provoke something between the two of them. Nah, come on, that's a little too ridiculous. There's no way Kate would do that. Right? Right? David starts giving both Kate and Javi shit when he walks into the room. You know what? I'm tired of hearing it from him. Alright, I've had enough of your shit, and you've barely been in these first two episodes. I'm gonna tell him off just to shut him up.
You know what, David? Time for you to open your eyes. Kate's gonna leave your ass. What? She told me so.
Honey!
You said that?
Jesus fucking Christ, no!
Wow, Telltale. I did not think it was possible to beat out Glass him from The Wolf Among Us, but you somehow managed to find a way. That's actually pretty impressive. You deserve a trophy for that. The flashback ends, and now we get into where the previous episode left off, with Javi waking up from the explosion. Clem tells him that the group that attacked them managed to get away, and that she has already dug a grave for Mari. Jeez, how long was I out for? Javi starts to bury her, while Clem voices her appreciation for Javi's decision.
Thank you for staying. I think you probably saved my life.
And just how, pray tell, did I do that, Clem? I was unconscious for most of that time, if you didn't realize. What good was I during the fight? Not to mention that if I went back with Tripp and the others, you managed to survive. So really, what did I do that saved your life?
We slowed them down.
The answer is nothing. But it makes it sound like the two care for one another, and had become close friends by having Clem come off as indebted to Javi. Clementine reveals that the people that attacked them are from a group called the New Frontier, whose members brand themselves somewhere on their body to signify their commitment to the group. She also reveals that she was briefly stuck with them for a while, and acts very mysterious when you pry for further info. Gee, I wonder where this could possibly be leading. You know, between Kate and David's marriage and the hints that are being dropped about Clem, subtlety is clearly not this game's strength. Clem drives Javi back to Prescott and says that she's taking off immediately afterwards. When he gets back, he goes over to the infirmary and Eleanor explains to him, "Oh, come on! The hand is phasing through the fucking bag! Seriously, guys, maybe don't rush out these episodes so you can fix!" Eleanor explains to him that while she's stable, she's bleeding internally, and according to her, it's probably just a matter of time. Despite this, Kate will survive another 24 hours with very little medical attention.
Those bastards did her one favor at least. Any lower, and that bullet would have torn her stomach lining as well.
Eleanor, I wouldn't call getting shot and suffering as she slowly dies a favor. A better favor may have been if the shot was somewhere else and killed her immediately. That'd be a favor for her since it would be a quick and painless death, and it'd be a favor for the player so we wouldn't have to bear her for another 3 episodes. After that, Tripp offers Javi and his family the chance to stay in Prescott, completely forgetting what happened the previous night. "Don't you remember, Tripp? I got one of your people killed. You locked me and Clem up for the night. You said you should punch my lights out, and you wanted me out of your hair. But now it's all water under the bridge." "Huh, I think I just learned something about you. You have amnesia when it's convenient for the plot." Javi begins looking around for Gabe and finds him right outside the main gate. You know, the same main gate I just pulled up in front of not a few minutes ago. How did you miss seeing him? He was right there! He tells Javi about how he's tired of just sitting around doing nothing and says he wants to start acting like a man, like his father.
"Next time, I'm not gonna sit back and watch. I'm gonna do something. I have to."
Well, it's nice to see Gabe finally want to start stepping up and doing something, to stop acting like a petulant child and become someone who can actually contribute and take care of themselves. Sure, characters like Clem and Carl have been doing this almost since the start of everything, but sure, waiting around for 4 years is just as good a time as any. How in the hell have you survived this long if you haven't been doing this stuff already? This is why the writers should have done a better job of establishing what you've been doing all this time. Or maybe they shouldn't have jumped so far into the future. And I know what you're all thinking, "Oh, but if they did that, we wouldn't have Clementine in this game." Well, here's the thing. She's not even a major character. She's a glorified side character. Telltale putting her here was just to retain old fans of the series who may not have played the game if she wasn't involved. Because remember, this is a game for newcomers. Screw all the old fans of the series who have made Telltale what they are. She's on all the promotional art, she's featured heavily in most of the trailers, which would make you think that she was going to be a prominent character this season, but that's not at all what happens. In fact, if you remove her from the story, practically nothing would change. She doesn't add anything to the game. Even her arc with AJ, the only actual purpose for her character being here, goes unresolved by the end of the season. And as one of the biggest Clementine fans and defenders you will ever meet, hell, I'm wearing a signed Clementine hat by Melissa Hutchinson, I'm going to tell you that her presence in the game is actually one of its biggest weaknesses. The game tries to create this strange balance between Javi and Clem's story, obviously with more emphasis being put on the former, but still trying to essentially tell 2 stories in one, and try to have them intertwined with one another. However, there are several factors that hinder this balance. Those include short episode lengths, numerous rewrites, and the fact that for a good chunk of the game, Clem is absent because she's off doing her own thing. As a result, both stories are impacted negatively because the necessary amount of focus isn't being put on either of them. Remove Clem since she's the lesser of the two, and that's more attention that can be put on Javi. Time that can be spent fleshing out his family, giving us more detail about their time before, more info on communities like Prescott or the New Frontier. However, because the writers are trying to juggle too many things at once with such limited time given to each, it creates a battle for dominance as to which story is going to get more attention put on it. And in the end, both sides don't get enough, causing character relations and plot points to feel rushed. Javi and Clem's stories are not intertwined. Clem is basically just along for the ride. Clem being featured in the game acts as a way to give it some sort of validity among the fans, and the higher-ups at Telltale knew this. They knew fans wouldn't buy a game that didn't appear to continue Clementine's story, so to fix that, they lazily threw her in here to make it come off as an authentic Telltale The Walking Dead game, not some sort of spin-off story they wanted to tell. That this is worthy of being a main entry in the series because she's in it. Ingenious, but also shady and conniving. You want to know why fans are hesitant to trust you again, even with everything that you've been saying about the final season? It's because you pulled shit like this in the past. We want to believe you. We want to trust every single word that you're saying about this final season. But when you've cried wolf so many times, we're not going to believe you when the wolf actually shows up. Sure enough, the New Frontier shows up right outside of Prescott's gate with a truck loaded with walkers. Javi and Gabe run back inside where Javi joins Tripp and Conrad up top. With Clementine? Wait a minute, I thought she was taking off after she dropped off Javi. Why is she still here? In fact, where was she when we were walking around just before? You never see her. In fact, you never see her enter with Javi before that, and the gate was closed in this shot when Javi went to talk to Tripp. But now here she is just right out of the blue. Telltale, are you really so lazy that you couldn't have just added Clementine walking into Prescott with Javi? We see Max and Badger hop out, and Tripp notes that they belong to the New Frontier, implying that there is a history between him and them. Later on, it's revealed that Max, Badger, and others go to communities and ransack them for supplies and anything else of importance. But yet, apparently, up until now, they were more than happy to let Prescott live in peace. This is what happens when you rewrite the entire season halfway through. You get inconsistencies such as this. After a short exchange, Badger brings out Francine, who he uses as a bargaining chip to convince Javi to give himself up. He can decide to do so, but it doesn't matter in the end as another gunfight breaks out and Badger shoots Francine as she tries to make a run for it. Badger gives the order to ram the gate and they fill the place with tear gas and walkers, but thankfully all the main characters are able to make it out of there alive. As for the rest of the community, fuck them. We get a montage of them all dying as the opening credits start a mere 20 minutes into the episode. You would have thought that Tripp would put the well-being of his people over the guy he met 24 hours ago, threw in jail, and indirectly led a New Frontier to his gates. But instead he makes sure Javi makes it out okay while he condemns the people he's known for months, perhaps years, to death. You know, I heard that if you look really closely as Tripp makes his escape, you can see him flip everyone in Prescott off. The group finally reconnects with each other down the road, where Conrad lays the blame right at Javi for what happened to Francine and Prescott. In response, Gabe starts pointing his gun at Conrad to get him to back off. Way to be a man, Gabe. Escalating the situation when it's relatively controlled. You know, I'm not exactly sure this is something your father would do. Fuck. Never mind. After that happens, Clem suggests they go to Richmond because she heard that there's a community there. The group agrees, and then this happens.
Huh. Maybe they'll hit it off.
I guess Clementine finds whiny, angsty, immature boys attractive? If I'm being honest, I really have no idea how to make fun of this scene, so here's my original reaction from my playthrough. No, God, no. Oh, fuck no. No.
I remember being that age. You need someone else to talk to.
No.
Come on, guys.
As we make our way to Richmond, Kate's condition continues to worsen, with Javi noticing she's got a fever.
And the only prescription is more cowbell.
She starts to accept that she's going to die, while also worrying about Gabe and who he's going to turn into. Javi, hilariously, tries to reassure her.
You'll see. He's gonna be stronger than both of us.
He's gonna be stronger than both of them? Oh my god! I thought I was playing The Walking Dead, not Tales from the Borderlands. Oh man.
You're buying it whether you want to or not.
Okay. Alright, let's move on. Let's move on. The next day, the group is stopped because... Oh my god. He's gonna be stronger. The next day, the group is stopped because the pathway is blocked by several cars.
Awfully convenient the pass is blocked like this.
No, Trip, that's just more shitty writing. So now, Javi is tasked with trying to find a way to clear the path while everyone kind of just stands around and does nothing. In a nearby garage, he finds a tow truck which can be used to... Jesus Christ, again with this crap? We don't have tiny attention spans, Telltale. We don't need jump scares like this to keep us interested. In fact, sometimes we need moments of levity and breaks from the action so that we can more effectively absorb and digest everything that has happened so far, not an endless barrage of quick-time events. Using the tow truck, we clear open a path, but guess what happens next? More quick-time events!
Get the walkers!
Okay, look, I know I've complained about these previously, but I really need to say this. This right here is probably one of, if not the worst fight scenes in the game. Look at this, all you're doing is pressing the circle button several times. Yeah, that's some riveting and revolutionizing gameplay right there. That really provides a challenge to the player. Telltale, there's only so much enjoyment we can get out of swiping a certain direction and pressing one of the 4 buttons on the controller, so don't try and overdo the limited ways that you can expand on this formula in such a short amount of time, okay? What made you guys think this was somehow better gameplay than puzzle solving and hubs? And I would hardly count the recent scene as a good example. These hubs are basically a waste of time, as when you try to talk to any of the other characters, you rarely, if ever, learn anything about them. It's just Javi walking up to them saying something obvious, and then Javi walking away. You can't even strike up a conversation with any of them. That was what made these characters feel more real in previous seasons. It wasn't just characters going through the motions, but felt like actual people with whom you can connect with. What happened to the days of Season 1 when you could walk around the motel and we could actually have conversations with the characters, learn about them a bit more, gain their perspective and thoughts, and develop a bond with them? Having moments like that makes these characters feel more realistic and personable, not like pieces of code. As for puzzles, this one was so straightforward that my dog could have figured it out on her own. It's finding a pair of jumper cables and a wrench. How hard is that? And the wrench was attached to the walker you had to kill earlier. While I can't say the puzzles in the previous seasons were extremely difficult, they were still better than this. Okay, maybe not all of them. Wind turbine. A good combination of hubs and puzzle solving would be the train sequence back in episode 3 of season 1. You actually had to search around to find the proper tools you needed. It wasn't just handed to you on a platter. It also encouraged you to go around and talk to the other characters and explore the entirety of the environment because you never knew what was going to be important for later. Moments like this fostered a want to talk to them again during other points in the game, and oftentimes, it would change how that character viewed you and played a role later. Example, if you saved Carly in episode 3, you can go around and tell everyone about your past. While it eventually does come out later anyway, it still affects the relationship you have with certain characters depending on if they heard it from you or someone else. There's nothing like that here. There's no substance to these moments. It's just them going, hey, hey. Anyway, Eleanor and Kate are able to make it through, while the rest of the group is forced up onto the roof of a nearby building where they begin arguing over how to get out of this predicament.
We have to come up with some kind of plan.
No shit, Sherlock!
Their arguing is interrupted, however, when Javi spots someone watching them from afar. He sneaks up to the stranger's position, but gets duped himself. What, does he just carry around an extra trench coat and hat for occasions such as this? The rest of the group shows up and surround him, and reveals that Richmond was taken over by the New Frontier, meaning Kate and Eleanor are heading straight for them. He reveals a way to get to Richmond through a train tunnel and offers to lead them there.
We're gonna tie you up and make sure your story checks out.
That's really not necessary.
I don't know. We just met this guy.
We all just met.
Clementine's saying what everyone playing the game is thinking right now. What the hell was that noise?
Lower your guns.
Javi, man, don't.
Do you trust me or not?
Trip? Why do you trust me here exactly? You've known me for less than 2 whole days, and in that time you locked me up, I got you into 2 fights with the New Frontier, and got your entire community destroyed. You should hate my fucking guts, but instead you're letting me call the shots. A monkey that was dropped on its head has more brains than you do. This is the same problem I had with Clem quickly trusting Javi in the previous episode. There's no rhyme or reason other than Javi being the main character. That's it. The game offers no other justification. We start walking towards the tunnel, and the stranger finally introduces himself.
Sorry, forgot to introduce myself. It's Paul, but my friends call me Jesus.
Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God.
For those of you asking, yes, that is the same Jesus from the comic books. So now that's Herschel, Glenn, and Jesus that Clementine has met. An impressive coincidence or unlikely happenstance? Your call. What the hell is happening? What's going... Oh, that's right. I completely forgot. We play as Clementine in this game. We spent so much time playing as Javi, it must have slipped my mind. So this is going to be the extent to which we play as Clementine this season. Only in short flashbacks in the middle of the episode. Kinda makes it feel as though she was never meant to be in the game at all. That her inclusion was nothing more than an afterthought. Ah well, despite that, our parts are still the best thing of any episode this season. I just wish they were longer if they were going to insist on putting her in the game, instead of half-assing it. We see Clem and AJ running to escape some walkers, and Clem ends up barricading the 2 of them in a bus. Another girl shows up, however, and barges in. While distrustful, Clem allows her to stay to wait out the walkers, and she explains what happened to her.
We were out there scouting. Nothing out of the ordinary, and then chaos and shit.
Well, that's definitely not weird and immersion breaking. It's soon revealed that this woman, named Ava, is actually a member of the New Frontier, and she offers Clem a chance to join up with them. The flashback ends, and it goes right back to the group making their way through the train tunnel. Now, you are presented with a choice to accept or decline Ava's offer, but the reason why I didn't mention it before was because, and say it with me, it ultimately doesn't matter. To be fair, it does have somewhat of an impact in the long term. It's one of the 3 choices that determines where Clem goes in episode 5, but in the short term, it means nothing. Regardless of what you chose, Clementine does end up joining the New Frontier and shows Javi her brand as they're walking. It may play a role later, but I fail to see why they couldn't come up with another choice for us to make as Clem to help determine that. Why did the writers insist on making this a choice if it was crucial for the plot that she be a member of the New Frontier? I don't want Telltale to think that they can get away with something like this because they throw some bullshit way to incorporate that choice later on down the road. This does not excuse them of this fuck-up. Clem explains to Javi that she can't be seen by them, so once they reach the end of the tunnel, she's taking off. However, they're interrupted when the tunnel turns out to be filled with randomly spawning walkers. The group makes their way through one of the trains, while Clem, Gabe, and Javi stay behind to barricade the door behind them. As they make their escape, Conrad is waiting for them at the end.
So I pull out my gun.
As it turns out, he heard their entire conversation and wants to use Clem as a hostage to get the New Frontier to give them what they want, including medical help for Kate. Kind of a surprising turnaround for a character who 20 minutes ago was saying this.
All I want is to find the motherfuckers who did this.
Clem, understandably, refuses to go along.
How about I shoot your little boyfriend here instead?
Conrad, they have talked once. That is the extent of their relationship. I wouldn't call them acquaintances, let alone boyfriend and girlfriend. Also, Conrad, you weren't even around to see that. Only Javi and Eleanor were. You were back in the car by that point. So how are you getting this information? Actually, characters knowing things without explanation happens a lot throughout this game. It's actually kind of surprising. With Conrad pointing a gun at Gabe, this presents a difficult conundrum for Javi, as a man driven mad by the loss of his girlfriend is threatening to kill his own nephew. Does he go along with Conrad's plan, or does he side with a girl he just met a couple of days ago? Ah, who the fuck am I kidding? I shot the fucker in the face!
Holy shit!
That was a risky move, but I see that you did it to protect Gabe. Fuck Gabe, I did it for Clem! I was kinda hoping Conrad would shoot the fucker too. Or that I would accidentally miss and hit Gabe. Did Telltale really think that players were going to side with Conrad and Gabe over fucking Clementine? The girl we've been either looking after or playing as since she was 8? Fat chance in hell I'd be doing that. And the overwhelming majority agree with me, as almost 90% of players, according to the end stats, made the same decision. This is the same problem as the final choice from part 1. No one is going to side against Clementine, especially when it's for characters that were just introduced. While it might be in character for Javi to side with his family or go along with Conrad's plan, it doesn't make sense for the player. This is the problem when a game creates a pre-established relationship between the main character and others. That character may have a history with them, but the player does not. And thus you may be forcing them to side with those characters even though it may not sit right with the players themselves, unless you give us a reason to care about them. Just because you create a pre-established relationship does not automatically mean the player has the same relationship with that character. It doesn't excuse the writers from giving us a reason to like them. The only ones that might side against Clementine in this situation are people that have never played the first 2 seasons. And what, that's about 5 people? With Conrad dead, Clem uses now as her opportunity to run off, while Javi and Gabe make their way to the exit and tell Tripp and Jesus that Conrad didn't make it.
Oh, man. Conrad! Shit! Fuck!
And the girl, where is she?
Wait, you guys didn't see her? I mean, this is the only exit out of the tunnel, and she ran off before us. How did she get out or get past the 2 of you?
I just don't know what the hell is going on anymore. God, what a shit show!
Hey, Tripp just summed up this entire game. Okay, seriously, where is that noise coming from? Someone ringing the doorbell? They make their way towards Richmond and find Eleanor's car. Kate's inside, but Eleanor is nowhere to be found. So we're reunited with Kate and— what the hell? Clem is right there! Are you guys not seeing? So we're reunited with Kate and make our way to the main gate, guarded by none other than Max. Javi pleads with him to let them in so that Kate can get medical attention. He makes an emotional appeal by lying and saying that they already killed her daughter and that her son is watching her die.
Please! Kate's dying! She needs help!
And ya fucking blew our cover, you fucking idiot. Apparently, Max doesn't seem to notice this slip-up, you go lucky Gabe, but demands that we lower our weapons.
Everybody, put him down. Tripp, please.
You're the boss.
After either choosing to obey or ignore Max's commands, the gate opens up and out walks one of the leaders of the New Frontier. Oh boy, I wonder who on earth it could be.
They said they weren't here to hurt anybody, so I was trying to see if they...
Oh my God.
Dad?
What a twist!
Oh my God, it's David. I totally did not see that twist coming. And with that shocking twist, the episode ends and the next time segment starts. Nope, again, just straight to the choices and credits. Alright. Okay, how'd you deal with Kate and David's argument? 39.2 stayed out of it. Wow, a lot more people stood up to David than I thought. How did you handle New Frontier? 40.6 surrendered. Did you trust Jesus? 86 did. 89.4 killed Conrad. 95.9 capitulated to Max's demands. Okay, now the next time... Again, it just brings us right back to the main menu. So we're really not going to have any next time segments for this series? Wow, Telltale. That's not only lazy, but it just goes to show that you really had no idea what to do with this game, did you? Or what direction to take it in. Think about it. They can't put in a next time on segment because anything they write would more than likely get changed and rewritten, meaning that what was shown in the next time segment would likely not even be in the final version of the episode. Interviews with Clem's voice actress Melissa Hutchinson during the season revealed there were extensive rewrites happening while she was recording lines in the booth. They would actually tell her that stuff she was at the moment recording would more than likely be rewritten later. Not only that, but the lead writer of this two-parter, Brad Kane, left Telltale a month after the release of these episodes. Along with being the lead writer of the first two episodes, he was the season writing lead, according to his LinkedIn profile, meaning he was responsible for story development, screenwriting, and supervising the team of writers. The fact that such an influential and vital team member jumps ship in the middle of the season only increases the likelihood that someone else will come in and change what he was planning on doing. But honestly, maybe that's for the best because these first two episodes were outright stinkers. This two-parter is a mess from start to finish. It does a quick job of confusing the player with questions that will never be answered, rushed and or forced relationships between most of the characters, and characters that we couldn't care less about because we don't know anything about them. I could probably tell you more about Travis from Season 1 than I can about any character from this game, and all we know about him was that his dad was Special Forces and that he knew what he was doing. Instead of remedying the complaints people had with Season 2, they're amplified, and add several more on top of them. But the game's biggest problem is the fact that it was sold on several lies. There would be multiple different versions of Clementine? Lie. This will be the biggest season of The Walking Dead yet? Lie. Clem will be a co-playable character? Mostly a lie, since we play as her for less than 1/10 of the total game time. And the biggest of all, that this episode was so big that it had to be split into two. Lie. Combined, this barely reaches the same length as the average Season 1 episode, and individually, they're much shorter than the average Season 2 episode. What we essentially got was a 4-episode season, stretched out into 5 episodes so Telltale can do less work, but charge the same amount of money. Telltale, with this game you have done something inexcusable. You went full EA. You never go full EA, Telltale. Never go full EA. Then again, I shouldn't be surprised by this since they have a former CEO of EA, John Riccitiello, sitting on their board. A CEO that had to step down because he was generating too much negative publicity through the company's actions. I will repeat that. EA. Fucking Electronic Arts. You know, these guys. The same company that has got shit on the last couple of years regarding microtransactions, loot boxes, Star Wars Battlefronts 1 and 2, Mass Effect Andromeda, had to let this guy go because he was generating too much negative publicity for the company. Not only that, but in his last 2 years as CEO, EA was elected the worst company in America twice. And he was fired and then later hired by Telltale. Sitting on their board of directors, one of the higher-ups, giving advice to Brunner and the other executive members. You want to know why Telltale has become the shithole company that it is? Maybe it's because someone like him is calling the shots. Telltale has shown their true colors with this installment, And if this is the type of quality I could expect from the first 2 episodes, I don't have hopes set high for the remaining 3. But sadly, we have to continue. So join me next time when we look at episode 3, Above the Law. Way to be a man, Gabe. Escalating the situation when it's I guess Clementine finds Wangsty? Like he's... Jesus Christ. I don't want Telltale to think that they can get away with some bullshit... fuck. How in the hell have you survived this long if you haven't been doing this stuff already? This is why the writers need to foot? God damn it. That's one for the blooper reel. They need a foot? What are they going to do with the foot? Kick you in the ass, Gabe? That's actually something I would want to do. Oh, God. Okay.